A very good morning and good evening, good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, whatever place it is you're tuned on to the Life Signatures Radio. It is a daily show that is teaching, motivating, and inspiring. Basically focus on the three subjects of purpose, productivity, and resilience. We deploy these episodes, these messages through a series of episodes like we're doing right now. We are in the middle of a series which we just started maybe about 7 or so episodes back. We are talking about personal blockades. What is a personal blockade? It is a limitation that we put on ourselves, either consciously or unconsciously, and we readily accept it as if it is a fact. Even though it might not be a fact, we accept it as if it's a fact, and it now determines how far we cannot go, how far we cannot grow, how far we cannot reach, what we cannot become. Even though it gives us some freedom within those limitations of the boundaries that the blockade is, we can only get there and we can't get past the blockade. And we've already accepted it as if it's a fact. So we're going to start talking about the areas of blockades in our lives, and so we can be able to see how we can be able to fight them. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
So let us continue talking about this even as we are building this up. There are different ways in which we stand on our own way of success and become our own greatest impediment. And sometimes you don't even need to call an opposition. Sometimes we blame the devil for very many things that we ourselves, and if I was the devil, I would be like, now what have I done? What have I done? I wasn't even there. Because the devil can't be everywhere. I wasn't even there. And when we dissect the matter well, when we look at the cross section of the matter, we find that, wait a minute, I am responsible for my own success. I'm the one who stood on my own way. I'm the one who believed as if it's a fact that this can never happen, that can never happen, that can never come to pass. This is what I call the blockades that we put in our own lives at an individual level. And these blockades are normally, sometimes for the most part, they are mentally driven. We mentally assent to a fact or an illusion, and we think that that illusion is a fact, and we start operating our lives around that. People can even kill because of those illusions that they have believed. You cannot do this, you cannot do that, and so on and so forth. And the human race has for example, I read a story on when they were trying to make railroads in the United States of America. There was opposition, and the opposition was on an illusion that a woman cannot ride on a train, that if she does, her womb is going to fly away. That's stupid. It's a fact, by the way. It's written. People used to believe that stuff. It's just the other day in the 50s, I think that, I don't know if it's the 50s or the 60s, that they allowed women to vote for some reason or other. What was happening all along were blockades that were put in people's minds, and they accepted these blockades hook, line, and sinker. A woman cannot lead is a blockade. And sometimes the women themselves do believe this, that I'm just a woman, I cannot do this. It's a mental blockade. And sometimes men also, or men of a particular color, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. It's because of a mental blockade. But let's just look at one area, which is a major area around the whole wide world, in every human race, that affects our psyche. It is the area of culture. Today let's just talk about culture, which I have already insinuated. In fact, in the first 2 episodes in this series, I talked about this, that culture can be a killer. What did Peter Drucker say? He said, culture is strategy for breakfast. Culture doesn't need to be worked up. It doesn't need to be psyched up. It doesn't need to be cheered up. It just is. It's a phenomenon. It just operates. It just moves. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be advertised. In fact, most of the times, it doesn't need to be advertised. It doesn't need to be paid for. It doesn't need to be propped up. It just is. It can even fight its own battles. It's a killer. But you see, on the flip side also, culture can be a very beautiful thing. The thing is that culture cuts both ways. It's a force to reckon with. It is easy to get stuck. It is easy to get stuck in the past or even in the present because of culture. It gives people an identity. It gives people security. It gives people predictability. It's a what is it called? It's a psychological need of certainty. Culture normally hammers it right on the money. And we need this certainty at times in our lives, and we find sometimes certainty in obeying the culture of the day. Anything that does go outside of culture is normally consciously, unconsciously fought. Directly or indirectly, it's resisted. That we have always known this. We cannot do this. It's new. We don't know what this is. Even if whatever is new is good for you, just because of culture, you're going to stop. You're not going to just seamlessly transition into something new. You're going to resist it because there is a force called culture. Now, this culture can become a blockade that we are not even aware. I talked about Nokia, but let me not go there. It's a collective culture as well as an individual culture that can easily become a source of a blockade. Remember when I talked about the railroads? That was a collective culture. When we talk about women voting, black people, collective culture. Do you know how many people were killed? Black people were killed, as in set on fire. We read heart-wrenching stories of kids, boys, being sent to the electric chair because of culture. I mean, people fighting culture, people fighting new things. Nothing has been far more responsible for putting limits and blockades in people's lives like culture has. And of course, the opposite is also true. Like I said, culture cuts both ways. It's good and can also be bad. But let me just give you an example. When we take our children to school, are we doing it in response to culture or in response to a purpose? Before you can answer that question, you need to think just a little bit, because culture doesn't need you to think. You just do. You don't question. You just do. Because I said so. That's what culture does. But think about it. The things that you do, the things that I do. Why do I do those things? If you're a Christian, why do you say hallelujah, praise the Lord? Why? Culture, especially in the religious circles, will make you not to think. You just gobble up what has been there. Hook, line and sinker. And I'm not in any way suggesting that we need to change the religious edicts of the day, the religious texts of the day, and make them fashionable. No. The only thing I want us to change is our understanding of why. In fact, it's a very powerful thing to believe, and only believe when you've understood. Why do you believe the way you believe? Why do you take your kid to school? Tell me, is it because everybody else is doing it? Is it because that is how it has always been the past 100 years? Or is it because this kid is unique and they've got to be have their potential to be extracted and morphed and channeled and panel bit, something of that nature? It's a very interesting example there. Think about it. When you get out of school and start looking for a job, are you doing it out of culture, or are you doing it out of purpose? Are you doing it because that's the way things are, that's the way the world, that's the culture of the day? I mean, I've got to put food on the table. Why are you doing it? Why are you looking for a job? Why exactly are you looking for work to do? Must we follow the culture hook, line and sinker? Could it be that you break the limits of culture and totally fulfill your potential and success and purpose in the process? If we broke the limits, could it be that some of us don't need to go to school? Why is it that today some organizations are saying that they do not need or they do not require some people to have academic papers to work for them? See, I am not throwing the baby with the bathwater. I am just questioning and saying sometimes the things that we have put as culture, we obey them hook, line and sinker, could be some of the sources of our blockades, personal blockades. You are gifted as an athlete, but a personal blockade coming out of culture says you've got to go to school. So you waste yourself sitting behind a desk when you should be in the hills practicing to run as an athlete. It's a blockade, a personal blockade that has stemmed out of the culture of the day, which is a blockade because you have accepted it hook, line and sinker as if it is a fact. It is time to assess those things that we have believed hook, line and sinker without questioning them. It is time we start questioning these things and we look at them once again and review once again and say, wait a minute. Must it be this way? Isn't there another way that I can be able to do it? I mean, must I follow this route? Some of us, we should have asked that question when we were being forced to do some mathematics that we were not good at, physics that we were not good at, chemistry. I was doing my chemistry final year examination, chemistry practical. I have no idea what I was doing. I was laughing at myself literally after 4 years of studying the mole concept. I had no idea what I was doing. I was laughing at myself. Yet the same guy was laughing at himself doing the chemistry examination is a gifted orator. It's a gifted person with words. So the blockade is coming by just accepting whatever the culture of the day gives you. So it is high time we started questioning some of these things and saying, wait a minute. So culture is the first place where we should look at to suspect that there could be a blockade in there. Tomorrow we're going to look at another one. Until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.